You really should. It is really an amazing program, and we got to see some really great things. And so we really want to thank them for hosting us and taking us on that tour. But of course, as you know, there's a lot of walking and a lot of questions. And then there was a dog, and I got this. So
It was a good dog.
it was a cute little dog. So here we are. So I want to do an overview of the agenda. We're doing our welcome opening remarks. We're going to do public comments. We're going to do consent to today's agenda. If you have, I think the previous minutes of form. We're going to talk about the strategic planning and accountability. We got updates, board business, and then we hope to adjourn in a timely manner. There is, I think, one thing that did it come off the agenda already? Is it already not on there?
Yes, it's awesome.
Okay, so, all right, so, I don't know if we have any new members to introduce. Do you know we have any new members to introduce?
I don't think we do.
Sure.
I think we plan to do all introductions,
Yeah,
but since we're running behind.
yeah,
we'll
we
next
want
time.
to.
Can I just make a quick introduction?
Yes, please.
Oh, yeah.
This is Cindy Monarchy. She is graduated from West Salem High School. She's looking at getting into politics. Who's crazy enough to do that? And so I helped arrange a ride along with Commissioner Daniel Bethel for her a while back, and then was trying to get her to a board meeting. This one happened to work out. It was right here in Salem this time. So you just kind of keeping an eye on what's going on in here today.
Well, awesome. Well,
Welcome.
welcome. All right. So, do we have quorum yet?
We are
don't.
close,
Okay,
but
so
not
that's
yet.
fine. Charlie is going to give us some info. I'm sorry with you.
Right after.
We're coordinating the eating and the talking.
Right after I take a bite.
But Charlie's going to give us C-Tech history and story update. So I'm going to turn it over to Charlie and get us started.
Thanks. Well, first of all, you may or may not be aware that this was a working facility, a manufacturing facility prior to CTEC. And so I had the pleasure of being a part of the organization and actually running the organization. It was a family business with the Nielsen family. And Tom and I met at Atkinson Graduate School here in town. And the two of us hit it off, and the rest is history. 24 years later, we ended up closing the facility, which was a heartbreak for the family, for me in particular, because I was serving as president at that time. It wasn't because of me, by the way.
Thanks.
That's clear. But I thought it would be fun to just kind of give the perspective, because this is an amazing project that can occur in any community in this state. And if we're looking at workforce talent and development, then this is something we need to pay attention to. It takes people who are passionate. It obviously takes a philanthropic piece as well, but then it takes people with passion to make it work. I'm absolutely blown away with what's happening in these walls today. But let's go to the next slide. So this is, wait. Uh-oh. I'm running it. Okay.
Please, right here.
So this particular facility started out as a county works project. That's the upper left-hand corner there. And then over the years, we expanded to over 180,000 square feet of manufacturing space. Nielsen Manufacturing was one of the premier manufacturers actually on the West Coast. We were on the grid of private equity firms trying to do consolidation of the industry and so forth. And it just has a wonderful history. We'll go through some of the construction and so forth that you see. That barn, by the way, is where the office, or where the office and entrance was on the other side of this building. The area that you're in right now didn't occur until the, let's see, the 90s. So that gives you an idea. And so we used what space we could. It was a place of innovation. Jack Nielsen, who we'll meet here in a moment, Jack had relationships with different kinds of companies, but one of the things he worked with is that Oregon Fish and Wildlife came to him and said, you know, it's really hard for us to be able to sort fish. And Jack said, sorting fish. And the wheels got turning. And if you go to virtually any fish hatchery in throughout the Northwest and actually in the Midwest and so forth. It's a Nielsen manufacturing fish feeders still to this day. And then we also had what we called grading equipment, which measures fish that will go back into the raceway for propagation versus going into the stream. And that feeder on the right image up in the upper right-hand corner is a fish feeder, and you measure length by measuring the fish's girth. And so what we did is we changed the little thing, and by the way, the little fish go sliding through and the big fish go on. Anyway, place of innovation. Next slide.
What was the fried feeder thing?
The fry feeder, that's for doing little fingerlings. It's a different, it's a different kind of food than it was for the other ones. I've got a wonderful
Not
story.
French fries.
Not feed them into a fryer.
I don't know.
Being associated with this company and this family was an amazingly rewarding thing for me. By the way, I may get emotional during this process. We touched so many different lives and so forth, and people were absolutely at the center of this organization. Our connectivity to them, the skill sets that we needed were not being actually propagated through the schools, and they weren't even Chemeketa, as helpful as they were, they just didn't have anything. So we had to create training programs for our employees, similar to Knife River. I mean, when you get very specific with the equipment and so forth, you got to do it yourself. And we were so blessed with the fact that people came along and helped us do that. Next slide, please. So we did all kinds of equipment. The bottom lower left was for Tektronix and Hewlett Packard. We were one of the largest sheet metal manufacturing companies actually in the Northwest. And then as you can see, the top right image there, CTEC now has really, they've gotten rid of all of the buildings that were on the kind of the lower right-hand corner of that image, and they've melded things together and scabbed it on. And so the actual footprint of the facility is much larger, but that was our original footprint. And again, lower right, the magic ingredient, which we professed a great deal, is people. So, and then that's what actually brought me to Force Investment Board at that time, because I felt as though our involvement was the fact that they are my future workforce. Next image, please. So this gives you an idea. It's now lots and lots of walls and so forth, but that gives you an idea of the scope of the operations. What you see in the lower left-hand corner was the fabrication and our cell that we built. Our largest customers work in. We did electronics and manufacturing. Ben Cat will probably appreciate the fact that we were one of the first sheet metal companies that actually integrated electronics into the actual structures, which then also was another career opportunity for a lot of our employees and so forth. Next slide. We were recognized, which has been wonderful as well, as being a Family Business of the Year award by Oregon State University, as well as we were also Oregon Small Business Award winner. The same year that Phil Knight and Nike was awarded their award as the Oregon's premier manufacturing company and so forth. Phil got to speak, Tom Nielsen didn't. So yeah, and it was quite a speech by Phil, by the way. So, and then again, just an example of some of the structures that we did on the right-hand side. Next slide. So this was probably our most successful product in the upper right or left-hand corner and so forth. And you'll look in the image that's on the right-hand side of that, we manufactured the mainframe assembly for Sun Microsystems, which was the premier manufacturer of super high-speed processing. And they did it worldwide. So we built these products here, and then we delivered them to the Portland facility. And we were voted, Sun Microsystems, out of all of their suppliers, we were voted their top supplier for 4 years in a row. And that, by the way, that's against Samsung. That's against the bigs of the bigs. And we had a dynamic relationship because we also supplied the facility in Linlithgow, Scotland. And so we did that for 3 years. And just a remarkable program. It just shows you what can happen when good minds get together, try to figure things out, and you base it on quality and conviction. Next slide, please.
Supposed to be in the early 90s.
It was mid to late 90s. And then this is the last slide, but the family members, the Nielsen family, all of them were at one point engaged into the organization. Tom's brother is the lower left-hand corner. Tom's dad, Jack Nielsen, is right next to Jerry. You can see a remarkable similarity in the two of them. And then there's Chris and the grandkids that were next. And then the painting hung in our front lobby, and that was Jack and the fish feeders. So, and this is where I get emotional. It's just, it was a delightful thing when Todd and I talked, and he's going to be here at CTEC, for me to be able to just share this. We do have a book. Most of the images and the images outside indeed came from this book, and there's Jack right there. But it also shows what an investment in a community, and because Tom and Chris were incredibly active in the community as well. The institutions within the community, our association with the school district, our association with the community college, our association with the chamber, all were a part of our success. And I think it's something that, again, are foundational pieces of what we're also about. How do you have a good company, good working relationships that promotes and really drives the organization. So I've been delighted to be able to share this. I felt honored to be able to run this company for a number of years prior to us making the very painful decision to close the facility. But CTEC bringing them back.
Yeah.
100 students.
Yeah.
It just blows me away. Anyway, thank you for letting me share this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really, and it strikes me that, first of all, to be so connected to a time and a place is really unusual. Most people are like, I left that job. I don't even remember those people. But, and to have that spiritual legacy, if you will, continue in the training of young people, and what we saw today is so great. So thank you for that. It's really beautiful. Do we have a quorum yet?
Not quite.
Not quite. All right. So we have, we'll ask if we have any public comment. Do we have any public comment?
There were two members who signed up on our public comment sheet. Just double checking that you signed up on the correct sheet. That was Tom Goodhue and
Mistake.
And then there was one
I'm just
other.
trying to come to the meeting.
Was there anyone else who wanted to make public comment who was here today?
Doesn't look like it.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We do have the minutes that we're going to have to do, but I think we can go ahead and talk about the WTDB strategic planning and accountability, kind of where we stand.
Just if I might interject, I think that Leah had some remarks planned.
Okay.
Around housekeeping on the
Oh,
board
okay. All right.
to share. about
Yeah, that'll be great. No, I
And then
appreciate
we'll
that.
distract.
Hopefully bite us some
Yes,
time.
yes.
Yeah, buy us. a
Bite us some
little
time.
Yes, if you have some housekeeping, we'll take that.
Absolutely. Clay, I do have slides for that.
All the way up.
Yep, they should be right at the top.
We're just getting the slides up.
All right, well, as he gets to that first slide, I'm glad you guys are here today. I wanted to walk us through some helpful updates and reminders for WTDB members, whether you've been with us for years or you're just getting started. This presentation is meant to make it a smoother experience for you, so that you have every.
I am just.
Your experience.
Smooth experience, the goal overall.
Yeah, that's the goal.
You should be close, Clay.
Technology, we're gonna be great.
Right.
Right?
Press Clay, apologies.
I just had the exact same thought.
You lost. Let's go, Clay. You got this.
String it up. I'm just like that, super others.
By the way, Clay, we only allow you 2 sorries per session.
Here.
You're almost there. Keep going.
Okay,
So you got that.
tell me when.
Get a preview of the very large document that I was going to share with you.
Little parade.
It is. And now you just have to get past the charter. And you're there. There's a reason I didn't print this whole packet for you guys.
Thank you.
Waste of paper. I didn't want to kill any trees today. That's it. So this is my slide on just like member essentials updates, quick things that to make sure that you guys have everything that you need so that you can find the agendas, you can find the materials, and you don't have to, go hunting for them. So go ahead and move on to that next slide. So the first thing that I want to introduce is the board member reference packet. I created this reference packet to be a living document that's going to include your roles and responsibilities, your bylaws, any committee charters, key acronyms that might relate to our work. And it also contains helpful resources like the strategic plan and scorecard when that is finalized, and other key tools. This is going to be updated regularly and will be available at all meetings. You'll always have a reliable starting point for whatever you need. This piece will also include a short section in the packet on how to make our meetings as inclusive and accessible and productive as possible. This includes small but important things like displaying your name clearly, stating your name when you speak, and minimizing side conversations so that everyone, whether they're in the room or virtual, can participate and follow along, especially for those people who do watch our videos after they happen. And then at the very bottom of the packet there, you'll also find quick links to our homepage, to reports, to recordings, and more. Everything from table of contents down is a clickable link. And if you have anything that you would like to be added to this quick link, let me know, and I'm happy to add it. You have a copy of the first page in your packet if you want to take a look. Next slide.
Quick question before you.
Absolutely.
Are you referencing this being available on the website?
Mhm.
Okay, so where do we find this on the website?
That's next.
Oh,
Next slide. Email reminders and accessing meeting materials. We've heard from some members that they don't always see the agenda or the materials before a meeting, so I want to clarify exactly how those are shared. Reminder emails are sent out twice. So once 1 week before the meeting and then again the day of the meeting. It kind of looks like that white picture there, kind of a general outline of what you need and things to click on to make you get there as quickly as possible. They'll always include direct links to the agenda. You won't have to go click around for it. Just have to click the link that says agenda. But if you're not seeing these messages, I would always suggest that you check your inbox and spam folders. And if you're ever unsure about how to find them, or if you are missing anything, you're welcome to shoot me a message. But I'm going to go ahead and share with you what our public meetings calendar looks like, because that's going to be our landing page for everything WTDB. And if you bookmark that one page on your computer, hopefully everything will be easy to find. So on to that next one, please, Clay.
You had a bookmark, Charlie.
Bookmarks ready. So this is our public meetings webpage. And if you ever need a backup plan, this public meetings webpage is a great place to go. Everything that you need is on this page. Agendas, materials, joining info, minutes, everything organized in order. This page is located underneath the About Us section. So when you go to your WTDB website, you're going to click on About Us and it's going to say public meetings. It's going to pull up that piece right there. You scroll down, you're going to see a calendar. You're going to click on the meeting that you would like to learn more information about. And then something like this will pop up over there and you can see that I have all of our agenda items listed by item underneath there. And then morning of, I'll put together a big packet of information in case you would rather not have to click through each thing individually. So that's kind of what that looks like. But again, if you need help finding those things, that's what I'm here for. I want to make this easy for you. So if you have any questions, let me know. And then just some quick reminders on the next slide. So just quick housekeeping items. First, attestation forms. These are required once a year from all board members. Even if you're not eligible to receive a stipend, we still need a copy of it for records. We are at about 75% of WTDB members having submitted their attestation form. So if you have not done that yet, I would love one. Next, we have our I-9 form in Workday. So if you do qualify for a stipend, you're going to fill out that I-9 form. If you don't qualify for a stipend, please don't fill out that I-9 form. If you fill out that I-9 form, it's going to trigger a verification, and we're going to have to meet up in Salem so that I can verify your passport and your ID and make sure you are who you say you are. And it's an unnecessary loop of information that has to happen, because if we don't qualify for a stipend, then we don't need to be in the system. So,
Oh, by the way,
Mhm.
chances are that you qualify for the stipend are slim and none, and Slim just walked out the door. Please, if you do think you qualify or have any questions about that, get a hold of me and we'll help you.
absolutely. And then last, I just wanted to give you a reminder, board members are asked to complete workday trainings by December 31st of every year. We strongly recommend that you complete them early rather than later. We do have a tendency to have folks with more difficulty logging in after an extended period of time. So double check you can get into Workday and complete those trainings before it's the end of the year. And then our very last slide, please. Final reminders, closing thoughts, just a few things that I wanted to point out. Please RSVP to meetings whenever you can. I understand things come up. It does help us track quorum and know who is attending. It helps us plan effectively. Update your contact information with me or Todd if anything changes. I'm more than happy to change that up for you. If you ever need help accessing materials, please email me. That's what I'm here for. And then last but not least, we all welcome your feedback. Please tell me what's helpful, what's not helpful, what's missing. If you want changes made, I'm happy to make changes. I'm all about making it as efficient and effective as possible. So, yay.
So helpful, and I do want to, for people like me who forget all the time and will go to the page and be like, where is public meetings? It's under the About Us.
Yes.
So if you go there and you're like, where's the calendar, which is something that we do. And remember, it's under the About Us and it's a drop down. So.
And I'm happy to send you all that link later today and just be like, bookmark this when you have the chance. So it's all there, ready to go.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
One other quick update.
Yeah.
Clay and I, Aaliyah, are also working and meeting regularly on the update to the webpage. So in the same spirit as Aaliyah just conveyed in terms of around continuous improvement and efficiency, you'll see a few tweaks and some additions in there that hopefully, we think so, because 3 heads are better than 1, make sense to you and make things a little bit easier and more intuitive to find.
Thank you. I really appreciate you jumping into this committee and picking up the baton and working hard to help us all. So it's really appreciated.
Thank you.
So do we have a
Sure.
Yeah, sorry, we have a question. Thank you. We have a clap and a question. Yes.
Hi, I'm the guy with the question. It's Howard. One of the things that I have not been able to access following our board meetings is the recordings, and others have indicated the same thing. Is everybody, at least I certainly do not, and I believe there's a couple we're not set up to access those recordings, and I'm wondering if that could be repaired so we could all get access to the recordings post the meetings.
Absolutely. I can look into that. Typically, meeting recordings are posted at the latest a week after a meeting, but I try to get them out 2 or 3 days after, and they're usually just posted straight to YouTube. But I'll send that link out again as well.
Do they access them through where you just were? On
There is a link
public
for,
meeting?
Yep.
There's a line link there that they can click on and get to it?
Yeah.
Because the problem I was having is when I would click on the link, it would say you do not have authority or you do not have access rights or whatever, some standard, you're not approved to access it type of message.
that is wonderful to know. Thanks for passing that along. I'll see what I can fix about that. I haven't heard of that yet.
Thank you.
And yes, Howard, we are trying to go much quicker now so that you will have time to get off and start watching the beat game. So
Are there any other questions online? Any other questions?
Does not look like
All
it.
right, good. And now I can ask the question of, do we have quorum?
We are 2 members short.
2 members short. Okay, so we're gonna move the voting down, and I think now would be a good time to talk about the strategic plan and the governor's letter. So I think Sarah's on the call also. Yep, and I first of all want to ask, have folks here had the chance to look at the governor's letter? Okay, all right, good, all right. So essentially, you know, the governor sent us a letter kind of outlining her expectations and what she's looking for from the board. It came at a time when we were a little down the road already on our strategic planning. And it does have some impact on some of the work that we have done, though not, I would say, substantially, but it does have some impact. One of the things the governor talks about in the letter is wanting to see the board be kind of the source as it relates to metrics and data, specifically around workforce agencies and local workforce boards, around performance goals and system outcomes. Also speaking about that Work Source Oregon Continuous Improvement Committee, saying that, asking that this board kind of take on it's already a committee, but that this board take on that continuous improvement stance as a board writ large. And so there are specific metrics and other things talked about in the letter. So as a result, we went back and looked at the strategic plan that we have been working on. Now, Lindsay, our consultant, had been working with us for quite some time. And as everybody here who is involved in any kind of state work knows, there comes a time where you can't get any more money for your contract, depending on how you were contracted, depending on how the contract happened. And as a result, we ran out of money for the ability for Lindsay to take us the rest of the way. She got us pretty far. And so what we decided to do was to have Todd and the staff work on revising our latest iteration of the strategic plan to kind of highlight some of the tweaks or changes as a result of the letter and what things would be set aside. We also discussed putting together a committee specifically on metrics, a metrics committee. And I believe that's something we're going to do, and it's going to be like bringing in-house, and again, already a committee, in-house, that kind of kick process. So before Todd kind of discusses and showcases what the changes are that we worked about, I wanted to know, Sarah, if you had anything regarding the governor's letter you wanted to add to the board, since we have everyone here.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good. I think that you covered a lot of it, Sherry. I think I would just name that this is going to take a lot of work. The performance accountability systems improvement for the kind of public workforce system. So just encourage, when you all are thinking about the other activities that are outlined in your strategic plan, just really focusing and being mindful of the ensuring you're not getting too diffuse with the work. I think the governor really wants to see impact and really wants to see and understand impact across the public workforce system. And so just encourage us to really focus there before getting into some of the other activities in the board. And I think demonstrating success there can help just build credibility to get into other areas. So all that to say is I think a broad strategic plan is great. It continues to kind of set the intention for the workforce system writ large, but know that the governor really wants to see focus from this board on the public workforce system.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Before, I think it would be most helpful for Todd to kind of showcase the changes and then we can have a more detailed discussion rather than thinking of it in theory. So,
Sounds good. Before I jump in, I just wanted to give Venkat an opportunity. Venkat was so it wasn't just me. It was Sherry, it was Venkat, it was Julia, and it was Clay that worked together on the next sort of round of cleanup and revisions to integrate the governor's directives in her letter into the space and place we were when Lindsay had to roll off. So I'll toss it your way then, Ken.
Sure. Thank you, Todd. So Lindsay had got us most of the way there. I worked with Todd and got him introduced to a tool called Perplexity, which is an AI reasoning model. And then we put into their workspace what the strategic plan in its current form was, added the governor's letter, and then said, let's get it to across the finish line by incorporating the main elements of the governor's letter. I think that was helpful given the limited time and staff we had to come up with the final version. So I think what Todd will show us is the before and after picture with the changes that we have made to conform to the letter. So that might be helpful. And I highly suggest using tools like these more often to make us more efficient, but we just have to be careful about prompting in the right way and selecting the right models underneath that are best for the kind of work we want from them.
that's why we're so lucky, because he was able to help with the prompting of the model.
Oh, yeah, sure. Critical in Excel. All right, so I'm gonna share 3 documents. I'm going to share the document which was the last version that we had together when Lindsay Woolsey, our contractor, was still in the mix. Then I'm going to share the new document, the final draft of what is the current strategic plan and scorecard. Both documents will include highlights and remarks in terms of revisions or deletions. And then to sort of make it a little bit more clear when we get into discussion, Aaliyah is just going to put up the clean final draft for us to see as we have sorry, Clay. Clay's going to do that. So we have a final draft to talk about. So if you could pull, that's Lindsay Stock. So you can see in this document, it reflects on this first page. I know, by the way, the new one is just not quite 3 pages. One could argue it's only 2.5 pages. So when you prepared for the meeting, you probably noticed it wasn't a heavy lift in terms of a read.
Is this in the written materials that people have?
No, it's not in the written
So
material.
if you don't have it, if you have it on your computer, or I think you still can bring it up on your phone if the print's too small, just.
Oh yeah, thank you, Sherry. So this first page is largely similar to our 2022-2024 strategic plan, if not identical. The thing that it adds, in addition to the existing vision, mission, position, and reputation, because the executive committee, oh, by the way, was advisory to all this work, decided that we wanted to keep that intact. It does, though, in the spirit of continuous improvement and efficiency, take those WTDB agreements that Sherry worked hard on with myself and I always forget her name, to pull those together, right? The agreements in terms of how we do business, which cutely, I think, and catchily, sort of, if that's a word, spell out WTDB in terms of work collaboratively, be transparent and trustful, data-driven decision-making, and being bold and innovative. Instead of that being in a separate doc, and Venkat and I were just sidebarring a few minutes ago saying, oh my gosh, there's so many documents involved in this work. But in that spirit of efficiency, we combined the two on the first page. So second page, please. So on page 2 and 3, like our previous.
Is this the changes page?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So on page 2 and 3, just like our previous plan, we've got imperatives, objectives, board metrics, and on the second page, left over from a column that Lindsay had created, public workforce and larger system metrics. So on this page, it's color coded. Obviously, she just carried that over from our previous version in 22-24. And just as a reminder, right, the imperative and inclusive workforce system that advances equitable prosperity. And the next one, too, strategic alignment of systems and partners towards shared goals are largely the same imperatives that existed in the 2022-2024 plan. The color coding is there simply to connect the objective to the metrics. So you can see the light green goes with 1A, 1A2, and so forth. The next shade of green and the lighter color connects to similar, the similar colors in the other two columns. I'll go into a little bit more detail in terms of what this all says in the third slide. But for now, you can see, as I said, imperative 1 and 2 really haven't changed. The objective column, though, does bring in new language that wasn't there previously. It brings in work that was done in multiple sessions, as Sherry said, with Lindsay, and I cannot see that. So bear with me while I pull up my copy.
That's free time.
Yeah. So I can speak to it a little bit more clearly here.
That's better. That is better.
Thank you.
Made it a little bigger.
So at the top, increase, so the unhighlighted with yellow or orange is where we left it with Lindsay. Anything that is highlighted or orange with comments is what was done with the help of Sherry Van Cat, Clay, and Julia. So increased understanding and awareness of the systemic barriers experienced by Oregon's diverse populations relates to 1A and 1AA in terms of performance metrics. I'll dig into those on a cleaner version as we go. If we move over to the corresponding, so those are board metrics. We move over to the corresponding public workforce and larger system metrics. Those are highlighted because those have changed. Can you see that? I know Clay's doing some stuff, but oh no, it's okay. So track participant, customer barriers, employment rates and wages, retention rates and wages, etc. You'll see in a bit here that entire fourth column has been removed. And as Sherry said earlier, those themes and those call outs and metrics will in large part move into the metrics committee that will be established, which is called out in the strategic plan. So I'm not going to go into all of those. I mean, I think you probably had a chance to read through some of this, but if we go down to the second imperative around strategic alignment, you can see still having trouble. A is model and lead collaboration and systems alignment through. Yeah, thank you. I'll just go back to my copy. Can you guys see it at all?
Somewhat, but it'd be easier if you saw it and then you just said.
Yeah. So 2A, model and lead collaboration and systems alignment through integrated data and shared workforce goals. The corresponding board metric is an official invite to the governor partner agency leadership to adopt and contribute to Oregon's top shared workforce success goals. And that would also go over to, if we would have kept that fourth column, for example, 2BI, and I did something with the numbering too, which I think is a little bit easier to understand when we get to the final version. Increase employment, living wage, and higher in WTDB's priority industry sectors. if we go to B, shared workforce, then we get into the success goals. Yeah, 1, 2, and 3. 1 being facilitate the closing of skills gaps. 2, influence positive student outcomes in science and math, which percolated up, by the way, through our workforce readiness committee. Per the governor's letter, we have stricken that and removed it from the strat plan to further focus on the public workforce system. That said, Kim, that doesn't mean that our workforce readiness committee, which now George Conrad is a part of, is not going to still focus on that effort. It's just that it's not going to be one of our metrics on the strategic plan. Does that make sense? Okay. So same is true of the yep.
Todd, can I ask?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Follow on? Sorry, I'm late.
Well, thanks for being here.
I misjudged my travel time work time. If we take it off here, who has it? Strategic plan is it on?
So part of, so part of the reason of removing it, per the governor's letter, is that there are other agencies who have pieces of this, and we don't want to be redundant, and we don't want to be layering on top.
Yeah.
And our specific goal is the workforce system that we are responsible for. So the goal is to have us focus on that. I mean, there's OED, there's the HEC, there's a lot of people.
Department of Ed, yeah.
Right, Department of Ed. So that's really not ours to do anyway. I mean, we're not gonna really move that. I mean, it can be aspirational. So I think that's really the answer.
Yeah.
I don't think we're orphaning anything.
Yeah, I think, Venkat's been a big part of the Workforce Readiness Committee and is very passionate about 4th and 8th grade math scores. And, we've had conversations in this, at this table numerous times about, the Oregon's ranking in terms of high school graduation rate, science and math scores being down in the mid to upper 40s. So I think with Venkat's leadership on the Workforce Readiness Committee and some of the things that are called out in that charter, which you'll see in a bit, that work in terms of our advocacy, support, and influence from that committee isn't going away, but per comments and directive from Sarah Foster in the governor's office and the governor herself, it's sort of one of those things who has that, who owns that. It's more the Department of Ed and their partners that really own that metric, but we want to support and advocate and help them along with that from sort of our space in this whole ecosystem.
Yeah, completely understand and agree. So I love that. At the same time, I'm also thinking when you're a consumer of an output from a system that's upstream of you, are they producing what you need at the rate and the quality that you need? So their output measure should be measured by the consumer of the output. So I speak a little jargony here, but in other words, have they set the measure, whoever owns this outcome, at a level and a trajectory that the public workforce group can consume?
Well, I think this is where we can have influence, right? I mean, so we're looking at barriers both to employers and employees, right? So that's where we get our good data, then we're able to go to that agency and say, this is what our data is telling us. Now they need to take the baton and do the things they would do there, right? So I think that's the way synergistically it would work. And it does. I mean, they are looking at these things, right, Julia? I mean, they're not looking at these
Yeah,
things.
that's right.
Understood. And so it sounds like it gets more comprehensively knit together then at the governor level.
I was just wondering if Sarah had
Yeah.
any info on that. Sarah, do you have any intel? Or I was also thinking of Travis, and there he is.
His hand was raised.
I think I'm hearing the conversation around some of the goals that were in the last strategic plan around 4th grade math and science. And there was also a connection to housing goal. And I think the direction from the governor is really around, hey, this board is really focused on workforce outcomes. Not that those aren't important. Like I know you need 4th grade and 8th grade math and reading scores to be kind of a proxy for some of these others, but that's not within the board's sphere of influence or should be within the board's scope. So I think the question is around, of course, the governor has initiatives in K-12 in housing production and behavioral health, and the, Department of Education and the Department of Housing and Community Services also has goals and measures that are associated with those. So just wanted to reiterate, I think the governor's interest in measuring what the sphere of influence this group has, and that's squarely focused on your statutory authority, which is the public workforce system.
Thank you. Go ahead. We have a question from.
Yeah, I guess a comment, Sarah. I'm not sure I appreciate it. I'm respectfully kind of disagreeing when we talk about lower education. The one thing I think we've learned in Oregon as well as across the United States is that education and outcomes into industry are interconnected to a degree that we've never understood before. I think education and industry to a degree has been siloed from each other through the structure of our system. One of my attractions to this board is that we're highly collaborative, and we get things done when we work together under a common goal. Our Workforce Readiness Committee is one great example by that. So while I appreciate what you're saying, I appreciate what I think the governor is, but I don't think it's our job as part of a workforce to simply stand aside and hope that another agency picks up that priority. I'm seeing heads nod within the room, so.
I'll have Travis, I want to speak to that. I'm delivering, I think, some important feedback for this board to consider from the governor. And so hope that we can be in kind of generative dialogue. So I can't see who made that comment, but I wonder if there is
Charlie.
Okay. I wonder if there's an opportunity to acknowledge because I don't think anyone's arguing that we absolutely need our K-12 system to connect to our workforce system. Absolutely not. I think the governor is saying, and I'm saying first, let's start where we do have authority. Which is in our public workforce system. Doesn't mean we don't partner with K-12. It doesn't mean we don't look to those metrics. But I think that I'll be clear that the governor is really encouraging us to focus on where we do have that sphere of influence. Start there, and then think about where we might be supportive in other areas. So I'd love for us to think about a way to not lose that and not lose that connection, because I hear you and I agree that we are an integrated system that is connected. So let's not lose that, but let's think creatively about how we might be able to do that while remain focused on our statutory authority, which is the public workforce system.
I want to give Steve and then Travis. Oh, Steve, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I want to follow up on Charlie's comment about K through 12, and I know the statutory authority of how the workforce system is defined, but when you're, for example, talking about the governor's affordable housing initiative and it's 10 years, well, in year 8, 9, and 10 of that, those are fifth graders right now. So you have to be able to look at the whole system. Okay, having said all that, so then this document that we're trying to understand, literally you have to have AI in order to consume that and make sense of it. So the way that I look at this and I look at our role, I start with our role, as far as my understanding, is to advise the governor and the legislation on workforce policies. Okay, that's our role, is kind of give her and legislation kind of report, lay of the land, what needs to be done, what has been done, so all of that. So when I look at all this, I'm trying to understand how the executive committee or this board, which is a bunch of volunteers, can consume all of this and then put it in a report so that we can we can do all this. So to me, you know, when I looked at this and I looked at all the different committees, there's got to me, the committees are the ones that are going to have to compile all the information and provide it to the executive board committee to be able to kind of, you know, assimilate all this, but then someone's still going to have to communicate this because there's just too many different industries, committees, that there's no way in the world the executive committee or anyone can communicate all of this. So when I'm looking at all this, I'm looking at the end of the day, how do you assimilate all this and then communicate this in a clear way that addresses all the different barriers, needs, opportunities in all the different sectors.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. That's something we can discuss as we get to that final version. And then Travis, and then we're going to take a quick detour after Travis to do a quick vote related to quorum. So Travis.
Thank you, Sherry. It was your comment earlier that I just wanted to second. I think there's a big overhaul of the accountability system of the K-12 school system right now in Oregon, and that is something that maybe this group should get a briefing on. We could do a presentation from the folks who are involved in that work. I personally think it's smart for us to peel something so specific as 4th and 8th grade math scores out of the strategic plan and focus more on the outputs. I think some of the best work that's going on right now is with the sector specific ecosystems that are being developed, and folks are saying we need 500 nurses in the next 5 years. How do our programs align to that? That would cause K-12 and higher education and apprenticeships to all line up in the right direction. And those inputs, like kids being able to do math, are important, but I think the outputs are what we should stick with measuring. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are just going to do a quick detour because I want to get at least, we do want to vote on some other things, but at least we want to get the, to approve the March WTDB quarterly board member meeting minutes. So I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
I'll second.
Will you both state your name for the record, please?
Charlie Hopewell, so moved.
Kim Parker did in a second.
Thank you.
All right. And do we have anything else we can vote on that is, but everything else we're going to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll just hope that people can hang with us for the rest of this. Now, Todd is going to move on to the final version, and we're going to use that as a jumping off point because we do have time yet on this section.
Sherry, do you want to vote on the minutes? Since we have a.
Oh, I'm sorry. I totally, my brain just jumped moving. Yes, we have in a second. And we all in favor
Aye.
of approving the minutes?
Aye.
I
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? The ayes have it. It is moved. Thank you, Kim.
I got you back.
I'm trying to get back to the strategic plan because I know there's going to be a lot more conversation. But I want to make sure we have plenty of time. So thank you for that. So yeah, let's move to the final version. We're going to leave this version, Clay, and we're going to go
Final.
to the final.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and let's move through
Yeah,
that.
let's do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so those first two slides seemed so smart theoretically when Sherry and I were sort of planning this. But as we got into it, man, it was exactly the opposite of what we thought, which was it would be less complex. So we're just going to see the clean version, which is
In your packet.
in your packet. The clean version is in the
Your
packet.
packet.
Thank you, Aaliyah.
You're welcome.
So one more, Clay. Okay. Oh, no. Yeah, one more. That's good. Let's go there. Okay. Oop, go back. One slide back. Okay, so this is the current final draft. We cleaned it up quite a bit, got it out of the old format. So we think, and I think it's true, when I look at it, it's easier to read. These did not change. So this is the same vision, mission, position, and reputation that we've had for quite some time now, with those shared values and agreements added at the bottom of the page. So the next page. So this really gets to the changes and revisions that were made. It drops out those higher sort of population indicators, as Sarah said, housing and the 4th and 8th grade math, and I think a couple of other ones. The other thing it does is it continues that sort of format with the different colors to try and show you the progression from the imperatives, the corresponding objectives, and then the board performance metrics, right? So it does, as you notice, drop that 4th column. And as I said, much of, if not most all of what was in that fourth column will find its way into that metrics task force that was already spoken about a couple of times. So you can see the objectives ABC for our first imperative of inclusive workforce. And then on that first one, for example, increase understanding and awareness of the barriers. We go over to a couple of tweaks to our current work. One, it adds 2 biennial reports, a biennial awareness brief on those barriers to work for Oregonians. And secondly, it adds some expansion to our typical biennial on the even year talent assessment report. And oh, by the way, part of the work with Lindsay, remember Sherry, sort of resulted in 3 different themes in terms of the roles of you all as a board. And one of them is the first one is outlined there, right? Awareness building toward positive outcomes. The other one is influence to impact positive outcomes. And then the third is the authority to affect positive outcomes. So those themes are included in the strat plan so that y'all know and remember, and readers know and remember sort of what piece of our work is being utilized with those metrics to get us to our objectives and our imperatives. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the next one, increase access and participation and quality employment outcomes. There was not really any change here, just a few little tweaks on you know, I think number was the insignia number on the last one. So number of partner agencies, in addition to WorkSource Oregon and the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, aligning their priority populations and/or sector work with the WTDB's adopted priorities. That one again is influence to impact positive outcomes. This one kind of goes back to the meeting we had at I think Chris Latimer's place down there at Knife River on sparking and scaling innovation strategies that advance more individuals and families. Remember, we showed that rubric that we came up with. You talked about it, Kim, and so did Craig Pope, in terms of what can we do to better understand promising practices and innovative ideas to make them, move into a pilot phase and ultimately, get funded. So 3 there is the biennial briefing note, what to know about Oregonians and success in work, promising innovations, persistent issues and recommendations. The 4th, develop a 3 standard program pilot evaluation metrics. And the 5th, measure and report out on the take-up rate of promising innovations and/or newly funded initiatives that are based on promising innovations and practices. So then moving into number 2 on strategic alignment, you've got 4 ABCD, model and lead collaboration and systems alignment, which is a key piece of the role and responsibility you have as board members through data and shared workforce goals. Those 3 workforce goals that I started to touch on in the last slide are laid out there. These have changed a little bit since we got the governor's directive. So this first one didn't facilitate the closing of skills gap in Oregon and in priority sectors. This C did, and focuses, to Sarah's point, exclusively on WorkSource Oregon, the public workforce system, and holding those partners accountable to performance measures. And the last also changed higher level in the sort of K-12 and post-secondary space, influence positive youth and student outcomes in workforce education and training. So back to model and lead the way, an official invite in terms of a metric to the governor and partner leadership, which I spoke about earlier. And here's the one we keep talking about where it's ultimately called out in the strat plan. And goes with C, that's the first time it sort of went sideways and it goes straight across. So bear with us on the 45-degree angle here. But 7, establish a metrics task force to increase consistent contribution to and reporting on success goal 2 and larger system partners. Then, of course, 8 and 9 are 1, mandate and implement sharing agreements across the public workforce system, data sharing agreements. And then 9, it just calls out work we're already doing, which is the biennial Workforce Oregon assessment at the Continuous Improvement Committee, again, which focuses on the public workforce system Workforce Oregon. And then D on the shared goal 3, it has 2 board metrics, 1, which we are already in process, Charlie and I, in getting this done, commitments and support from workforce K-12 community college and university partners and employers. You'll hear a little bit more about this from Charlie here in a bit on WTDB Workforce Readiness Committee Charter and its work. And then number 11, as a ongoing deliverable in December, we have a report that comes out of that committee and comes to this board for approval and then on to the governor and the legislature. So if we could go to the final page, it really didn't change much at all. I think there were just 2 changes from a long ago draft for those of you who have been in the work because you're on the executive committee. That said, though, imperative 3, clear understanding and improved use of the impact of the workforce system. And 4, which I got to say came right out of Perplexity. AI recommended this. So we went with that language, accountable workforce system leadership. Clear understanding, there's 2 objectives, increased board and partner understanding of specific gaps in the system and aware of effective strategies to increase that awareness by customer groups. And then secondly, increase workforce system user awareness and used by primary system customers who are, called out there. Across from B at 13, leverage existing surveys. This was new to develop and implement an annual user awareness and satisfaction survey, which again gets at awareness building towards positive outcomes. And then we skip down to that accountable workforce system. There's 3 objectives there: consistent direct line communication with the governor's office and board executive leadership, increase intentionality of the board through committee and task force composition, and then C, implement mechanisms of accountability through research, analysis, and reports. And of course, there's corresponding metrics there. These are new, I think. Governor's office represented at WTDB meetings and in communication with the board's leadership, which I think is already taking place with Sarah and Sherry on a regular basis. And then governor solicits advising and recommendations broadly or on specific topics from WTDB. Demonstrated changes to board membership and active committees directly correlated to strategic partnership. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a bit here. As well, increased influence over investments. Again, authority to affect positive outcomes. And then last, governor calls for joint reporting by larger system partners on shared workforce success goals. I guess the only other thing at this point, Sherry, to just sort of highlight is the footnotes. They talk about the shared goals and performance measures being connected to those 3 themes, and then lays the definition of a metric about assessing how well the WTDB is performing on action correlated with the objective.
Thank you so much, Todd. So the key here is that this has been revised to really focus on our responsibilities and our metrics, and that the broader public workforce system metrics are going to be part of this committee. Okay. And that we, as far as putting together this strategic plan, at this point, especially given the governor's letter and everything, it just wasn't going to be realistic for us to make what we would need for that fourth column. So that's why it's removed. So what I would like to do today is for us to vote to approve this strategic plan, because we need to have one. We're a little late on it. And bear in mind that in voting to approve this strategic plan, it's a dead document at that point. It's still a living document. And it may be that as we go, we revise. We can vote to revise, but I think it would be constructive for us to move forward, for us to go ahead and to vote on the adoption of this particular strategic plan. Some of the highlights that I know were important to board members is that relationship with the governor that is there. Some of the highlights is our role and accountability with local boards and that two-way street with the boards being able to interface with us. That is there. So a lot of the key things that I think were important to people are there. And so I would like to propose that we adopt this strategic plan, again, bearing in mind that it's a living document and we can make revisions, but I think if we can wait to continue to get it to whatever it's going to be 2027. Oh, we're not going back into 2027, or maybe we can go forward and back, who knows? But so I would like a motion, if possible, to pass and adopt this strategic plan for the purposes of us moving forward. And if someone would second that.
I'll make the motion. This is.
She's thinking ahead.
That was perfect. Who made the motion? Who made the motion on?
This is Josh Hall. I make the motion.
Okay. And then Chris, did you second it? No. So you didn't second it. She was future. Remember I said we go past present. She was future ahead. Okay. All in favor of adopting this strategic plan, can you either signify by raising your hand or saying aye?
Question in order.
Huh?
Any further discussion?
Oh, and yeah, any further discussion?
I
We got something.
would like to pose a question.
Okay, go ahead and pose a
Okay,
question.
Sarah, this is Charlie Hopewell again, and Todd to you as well. Sarah, have you seen this final version prior to this meeting, and has it been passed by the governor, and is she in agreement that this addresses her letter?
Question.
That's a great question. So, no, I don't think at this point, given it's a living document and if we're open to changes, that I would encourage us to move forward rather than wait for this to move across the governor's desk. I will say that she is going to continue to encourage focus from this group. She's going to continue to encourage really laser focused on the public workforce system. So, so I'll just encourage us again to think about that, and that doesn't mean that this shouldn't be adopted, because I think it's a great plan with those revisions. I would just think when we talk about prioritizing and staging the work, given this is going to be a lot of work to operationalize, we really focus in on, I forget what imperative it was, but the maybe the third imperative around the public workforce system. I would also encourage the last imperative to potentially be an internal focused imperative around getting the governor's engagement in a lot of this work. I think that is a great goal, but would encourage us to think about that as an internal goal rather than an externally facing goal. So that's the feedback I have, but I don't think that should limit our ability to adopt the plan.
And Sarah, Sarah did see the.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm. I have one more online. I can't see. Do I have a hand raised?
Keith.
Oh, yes.
Keith Ozol's.
Huh?
Keith Ozol's online. You have a question? I'll go ahead and lower that hand then.
Okay, maybe it was for voting.
It could have
probably.
been.
Okay, and then, did you have a question?
I do.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Sarah, it's Kathy Reynolds. Can you hear me?
Kathy, hi.
Hello. So I'm going to pick up the question I had earlier, because
Yeah.
I understand removing the education and the housing pieces from the strategic plan. I understand the focus of this board around the public workforce system. Completely get it. This is not a disagreement with that. However, and focusing in on the public workforce is a current state problem. It is not a future state problem. And what I mean by that is not ensuring that we have affordable houses in the future for the workforce that will be coming our way, either through growth or migration, is potentially not understanding how to impact a future problem and will be basically creating a problem down the road. Same thing for interaction with the educational system. We are experiencing public workforce problems today because the educational system in the past did not address the gaps that we needed to have addressed. And so the question I was asking about the integration across the state, across all the boards, was where I first posed the question, which is I understand removing it from this plan, but where I don't see it is where it gets knit together at the state level. In other words, great, we're focusing on the public workforce sector. How do we make sure that in 3 years' time, we have enough people in the public workforce sector? 5 years' time, 10 years' time? And how do we make sure that whoever is setting the goals for the educational system or the housing system or any of the other systems are setting goals that are actually going to deliver the product that we need to consume as a future public workforce sector? I'll lower my hand now.
Here, Kathy. So I 100% agree, and I don't think there would be any argument from the governor on that. And I think about I'm just going to share my prior work in public health, and I always wanted to integrate public health in every single system so that I could work myself out of a job. And I say that because as a workforce advisor, I also intersect with housing, with the K-12 system, and I think that the more we can learn about how they're setting their metrics and invite them to this meeting, and the more we open that dialogue, the more we can integrate some of our thinking into that work. So that I'll answer is I don't think anyone's holding the entire North Star for all of these things, and I hear the need for that. But if we can't answer the question first about how is our public workforce system performing and how are we part of that, I think we have to answer that question first. And then from there, we do that deep learning with, inviting the K-12 accountability. Travis made a really good suggestion earlier on about how we might do that, inviting the housing production folks in to talk about that. But I think if we don't start with our authority and being able to answer our own question, I don't know that we're going to ever build that credibility in order to kind of see and maybe create that North Star.
I understand it. I'm not suggesting, I'm actually saying something different. I'm saying, get your own house in order, check. Got it. And who is holding accountable all the other systems so that in the future, we're not dealing with the same problem that we're dealing with today? Because if we're not putting our eye on it, then get it. That's not us. Who is? And it can't be a wait 3 years and wait 5 years thing. In an organizational corporate environment, you would have an overall dashboard with metrics that everyone's accountable for, and they are all driving to the same outcome. They are all aligned. I don't know what's on everyone else's dashboards. I don't know that they're all, if we can have a housing group show up here and tell us all the wonderful things they're doing, I could not tell you if they're going to deliver a result and if they're being held to those results. And I get that that's not our wheelhouse. Got it. Whose wheelhouse is it?
Good question.
Because as a consumer and as a member of the state of Oregon, I want to know someone has their eye on that, because great, we got our public workforce sector all cleaned up. We did our job and I got no one to employ.
Because
Or they're not educated, or there's nowhere to live.
Yeah, I mean,
So
to be honest, I mean, that is why this board had its high performance metrics, and that is why this board had expanded a bit beyond the system. That being said, we have this directive. So So based on that, what I would say is that as we get and utilize our data, it would be imperative of us to say, in our relationship with the governor's office and representatives, we are noticing an alarm bell, and we need to know X, Y, and Z because we are giving you this data, and this data is telling us there's an alarm bell. And who do we talk to, or who do you talk to, or how do we all talk to get this to happen? And historically, when we think about the workforce board, we have two trains running. We have our statutory authority, but we also have the role of, and it's realized in different states in different ways, but the role of what one thinks of the workforce board, right, which is a little bit more expansive. So what I would say is that from our perspective, nothing in this strategic plan limits our ability to take the data we get, that we have, the things that Steve talks about and others. If we get this data saying, look, we understand there's this push around diversity in construction, but what our data is telling us is there aren't people in that pipeline to do that, right? We can bring that forward. We can bring it to the governor. We can pull together a group of folks potentially to meet and discuss it. But that's about the limit of what we can do. Beyond that, I don't think there's a separate agency that would do that unless, I don't know, Julia, if you feel the heck serves this role as a coordinator.
I think partially, but I think it has to be a cross-agency effort and a governor really led effort to make sure we're all on the same page, working towards the same goal, as you said, Kathy.
Well, I think to that point, it is why it is important in this strategic plan. We do call it out, and we are working to develop that relationship, that we have a stronger, more rooted relationship with the governor's office than we have had in the past. And then with us digging into our data and using it in ways that are really useful, we are able to influence the governor in ways that I don't know if we had in the past. So I think, to Sarah's point, this is part of that development of credibility to be able to get those things to happen. I think I'm saying that right, Sarah. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and sorry, Kathy, if I misunderstood where you were kind of elevating it. We're not arguing that there isn't a housing crisis or there isn't a need to improve our K-12 education and training system or K-12 system and accountability. And I'll name that the governor has very clear metrics and priorities in those areas. And I'll name that this is not the table for that. I want to be very clear about that. That does not mean I can't invite those folks in, and importantly, you informing like, hey, this is what we're seeing. It might not match up with this, or this could add value to what you're doing in this space from a workforce lens. So I'll name that there's opportunity for that. So don't want to ignore that isn't a reality, and that there isn't just deep wisdom that this group can bring to those conversations. So I hope I didn't mishear your question.
What I was basically saying is to affirm that if we as a board have strong workforce data around the public system and what is missing and what are the stressors, and what we can use that data in the service of a better connected relationship with the governor and the governor's representatives to influence that policy, or to say, we see a gap. So, what our data is telling us on the ground with our local boards is there's a gap here, here, and here. And you all can take that and match that up with what other folks are saying and say, wait a minute, workforce over here is saying there's this gap, you're telling us this. And at that point, that's the governor's role, right? To hold people accountable or whatnot. Is that, I think we're saying the same thing. I'm just being,
Yeah.
So is there any other questions or discussion about this? Because I would like to get it to a vote. Again, recognizing that it is a living document. Yes, Steve. And again, we can't hear you, Steve.
So I need to vote my frustration before I vote nay on this. So when Future Ready was passed, and everyone agreed that the system was broken, it hasn't been fixed yet. And you're asking us to operate within that system to come up with a solution of how we can advise the governor and the legislation. And one of the biggest problem is the misalignments. And one of the biggest misalignments is through K through 12, post-secondary, and on-the-job training. And you cannot develop career ladders unless there's alignment. So I've studied enough reports and studies that have come up with great conclusions and recommendations, but where they consistently fall apart is who has the capacity to do the recommendations. So to agree upon, for me to agree upon this structure, it can be great. And I know that it is, there's a lot of good stuff in there, but I'm like, who's going to read this and who's going to act upon this? And then how does this actually get reported back and done in a way that we end up fixing the system? And right now what I'm hearing is there is a set definition of the system by statutory authority and all that. And so you're going to end up with the same outcomes that we keep getting over and over again. So that's my last comment.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that and I understand the frustration. I do get it. So we vote and we vote what the vote is. And so I thought we had a motion, am I right? Okay. So now, for all those who are in favor, if you can vote yay or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Need some eye counting, because I think,
Will you raise your hand if you're a?
okay, we're gonna need first. Oh, myself, I should.
And then we're at 11 yays currently.
And what about on the,
11, 12, 13.
and we had some people
Does
say
everybody
so.
know that they want to?
Yeah, we-
Anybody in the chat, if you are voting yay or nay, will you put that in the chat for my records, just so I have an easier time counting, please?
I'm driving. This is Josh Hall. I am a yay.
Thank you.
We're voting on the document, knowing that it is a living document.
Right. It's a strategic plan for right now.
We are at 15.
15, okay. All those who are opposed.
The living document. I mean, I know how much time it's taken us to get to this point.
And all those who are opposed, this is your time to be opposed. What do we
We
get?
have one, Steve did put no in the chat. Anyone else?
And any other opposed? Any abstain? An abstainer? Any, do we have another abstainer? And I don't know if his hand is
I
for
think yes.
abstain. or-
Ramona, is your hand up or no?
Up.
As in favor or in favor of?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, against.
As in
Thanks,
again.
Kim.
All right. So what are our numbers?
Sorry.
That's okay.
We're at 16.
So how many for
16 for,
and how many against?
2 against, 1 abstention.
Okay, so it sounds like the ayes have it, so that the strategic planning document is approved. Again, understanding that it will be, something that we look at as we go. We will then ultimately move to create a commit on metrics, and that'll put us in a different space. Say something.
Sure. And Sarah Foster, to my knowledge, has already started that wheel in motion and has reached out to the various public workforce partners to convene a meeting, I think, towards the end of this month, 26th, 27th, somewhere in there, to talk more about her vision, the governor's letter, and where we go from here.
Okay. All right, we are gonna take a 10-minute break and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna get some committee updates and progress report. So.
Oh, she has a good dot card too. People are already giving us this like.
Wanted to do it, yeah. I don't have a hammer, so I'm using.
Yeah. Oh, man. I was hoping you were using about.
No, no,
Sorry.
using this is hand sanitizer.
Or a gas.
Yeah, it's a gavel or hand sanitizer. All right, we are going to go ahead and reconvene. Hopefully folks who are online will be coming back in. And our next item on the agenda is committee updates and progress reports. And first up is Charlie and Tom with Workforce Readiness Committee. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
And Charlie's gonna make the presentation. I'm only here for comic relief and also in case Charlie has a mental breakdown.
Always.
You got a slap and know that happen.
Making fun of my own state. We're good co-chair.
Yeah, we gotta go back to that social.
It's all for anyone on.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you very much. We're gonna kind of look through things. I'm hoping that people have had a chance to actually review the charter, which is what we need to take some specific voting action on today. Before we actually get into the charter and so forth, I want to mention a couple of things. On the first page, when we have critical parties and it says committee leadership and it's myself and Tom. But first of all, I want to thank Tom for the process that he's done in working through and with me in particular, and Todd in particular, because been this cohesive thread that brings people, things, ideas, concepts, and so forth together. And we couldn't have gotten to this without that level of help. So Todd, I want to thank you very much for that. The other one is that in regard to the Workforce Readiness Committee, on the last page of this, and we'll get to that at last, but I always want to mention this first. I showed the slide that says people first. That is really where the magic has happened within this particular group. I see personally that the Workforce Talent Development Board, of all of our assets, convening and being able to network is perhaps our strongest tool. And so given that that's the case, then my hope is that we'll be continue to do great work and attract people into the work that we're doing at a much higher level than I think currently exists within the state of Oregon. So let me first, before I also get into it, the very top of this document, it's on the sponsors. Todd mentioned this earlier. We are really looking to key leaders within the Oregon's ecosystem to be able to understand this charter and to sign on to this charter, to give it the chops we think it needs to be able to garner the attention to be a part of Oregon's ecosystem. And I think that that's critical. I am delighted to say that Dr. Williams, Director of Department of Education, has signed on with great willingness, in fact, and comes from a state that is valuing CTE education, I think, even at a higher degree than Oregon is doing. And then the other one, which is also very, very exciting, thank you, Howard, is President Murthy, of Oregon State University, has also signed on as a sponsor. In addition to that, Todd and I are going to be continuing to seek sponsors. And I can tell this room, because then anybody associated with these associations or individuals can also put in your 2 cents worth with them, please. But one of them is the Oregon Business Council, which I feel represents a lot of Oregon's powerhouses, quite frankly. And the luck that I have there, or that we have there, is that Maria, who is the chair of OBC, is with the PGE. Or Maria also then, PGE is one of the members of the Clean Energy Pact. The Clean Energy Pact has adopted, isn't talking about it, they've adopted the OES standards, by the way, to insert within their 5,000 employees that they need to get, which is awesome.
Yeah,
So,
that is huge.
yeah, it's huge. So
Employers.
real quick, I'm going to walk through the document just very, very quickly. If anybody has any questions, please stop, but I wanted to point out some things in particular. First of all, the committee's purpose is really talking about career-ready people. And that is one thing that we conceptualized early that career readiness starts, in fact, in many cases, and Travis Ryan up in Hillsborough will certainly attest to this, as early as kindergarten and as late as a 70-year-old that needs to get re-entered back into the workforce. I will also want to reiterate the fact that it is foundational knowledge, not a trait that I can learn to weld and so forth. This is what makes a welder responsible. This is what helps somebody in AI to be able to communicate, collaborate, and so forth. So work from there. That's all for me on page 1. On page 2, under the opportunity statement and so forth, again, we are aligning with the WTDB's overall mission, vision, and so forth. So with that, we will be under alignment with that. And I just mentioned it coming into this conversation that was included in here, which is we need a knowledgeable and networked convener. And I think that is what the WTDB is doing. That's what this charter also falls out and so forth. So the board's emphasis on bold and innovative vision and action, again, aligns with the strategic goals of the Workforce Talent and Development Board. And quite frankly, this has probably been one of the most innovative exercises I've ever done and as a member of this board. Page 3. With great progress, lots to still be done. Operation expansion of OES is what our clear #1 focus is. We started this project. I've said that it's something that I want to do before I do at some point officially retire. I'm not sure when that will be, maybe sooner than later, I'm sure. But our #1 kind of primary goal is really to bring the work that needs to be done to make sure that OES has a home. It's integrated into our education systems. It's integrated into our workforce systems. And our business and industry sees it as a value, and we create currency between education and industry. Magic happens because people are successful in the workplace. So that is also integrated within pages of the document on page 3. Page 4. This really the second item, which is new to our focus of the Workforce Readiness Committee, is really kind of leaning into the STEM lift piece. Through Venkat's assistance and so forth, we brought up, and he's mentioned even today, and the processes, how do we integrate this technology and AI into the processes that will help learners and people be more successful? In addition to that, though, that math and science initiative remains a key item for success in the workplace, really through a whole series of jobs that will be in our economy. And so therefore does still continue to need some assistance there. How can we, as the Workforce Readiness Committee, continue to have conversation to support that effort as we move forward? We're looking again for strong partners. There has been work that's been done on the math side. OBC, for instance, it's been a key element of them for years and years and years. What we need to do is to just continue to align those partners as we move forward. And then I believe then under committee actions, the same kind of a thing that we've done with the WRC is really trying to put some form of an industry consortia together that's going to assist in the process of saying, and I think that whenever we're talking about policy, particular public policy, the criticality of the economy of Oregon speaking to those who are going to help train and provide those individuals for the jobs is making sure that conversation was really happening. And again, creating currency, supply and demand. Page 4-5. I just want to point out items 3, 4, and 5 up in the top, which applies to a lot of these is partner, pilot, and develop. That's different than TDB in the past. And I think it's something that we are saying is something that needs to happen more. And so we want to continue to drive that. And so some of this is very, very action oriented. And I'm going to have an ask at the end of this to each of our board members here. And then the last element of that, of course, dealing with the STEM lift is measurable outcomes, determining what they are. For our previous conversation, who keeps those outcomes how do we help keep each other accountable? And so if we have multiple agencies at the table, which this group does, how do we make sure we are indeed aligned? And I completely agree on the comments earlier by Steve. I think there is misalignment in many areas of our system. We'll have to work hard to correct that. The final element of the workforce readiness, the Workforce Readiness Committee is really looking at the dual credit conversation. That came up as we were taking a look at having people ready for the workforce system. Part of that has to deal with housing costs and so forth, the dual credit piece, which this place is a great example of that. How can we help people be successful without over-efforting them in the process so that they garner knowledge? They don't have to worry about if they're going to have to sleep in their car. So we're going to be doing some investigation and assistance in that. We've already had a conversation in our last meeting. And then the second and final element of this, CTE for all. This is a general goal, but it's one of those intersections actually of industry and education. We all know, we've all seen the statistics that our CTE students are higher achievers of graduation. They are more successful in the workplace. They are more successful in the other areas of classrooms in which they participate. This simply states it clearly. It should be something that all students and other states are doing. They're mandating that these kids be able to have these kinds of experiences. So we're going to lean in and study that and kind of move. So obviously there are project milestones, as we just talked about in the report that the strategic plan that you had mentioned. We'll continue our reporting and so forth. And finally, then as far as partners and so forth, again, from simply my standpoint, and I'm sure Tom mirrors this as well, this has been an effort of multiple organizations all coming together with a passion on something that is a huge win for agencies, organizations, but most important for individuals. So that is our charter. Anything you want to add to them?
I would just say that we've done a lot with zero money, so we've been rubbing sticks together and making fires, so we're going to continue to do work.
And for the record, and I do want this on the record, Sherry Clark has been absolutely phenomenal. She is an innovator. She's a thinker. She's an educator who is strong industry connections, and those pieces of connective tissue have just made her a hell of a powerhouse. And we could not have done this without your original conversations with Sherry, and then just her tenacity to want to make this work. And she'll do this work whether she is paid or not, but she deserves to be paid, and she deserves to have a home, and we deserve to have a house.
You know, Charlie, I'll just jump in and add one other thing or underscore some of what you already said. If you look at that partner list, speaking of what we just heard on the strategic plan and the focus on the public workforce system, a ton of those folks on the committee are part of the public workforce system. So
Yeah.
it's not just, it does at first blush, if you read through it, clearly have a focus on K-12, but that said, there is also with Oregon employability skills, Sherry's has done a lot and is still doing a lot in the public workforce system. So it's not just for K-12 students, it's for Workforce Oregon customers and employers. It's for community colleges, that good work that was done on the grant, Strengthening Community College grant through Department of Labor, 5.2 however many million, and Jenny Newby and all that great work that she's done. And then, you know, Howard at Oregon State University is doing more and more in that space and connected to that. So again, it's about that particular project OES, is that what it's called? I knew it was sort of rebranded, I couldn't remember. Project OES connects all the various system partners in a way that, you know, I don't remember anything else we've done on the board since you and I have been involved that's quite like that. So
from an outsider of the board here, just on the Workforce Readiness Committee, listening to you go through your approval of your of your board of directors are. The one thing I didn't see in there is if your authority is over workforce, then why not make the workforce system incorporated? Because they've been a hard sell. They're the hardest sell of all of the people we talked to. We talked to businesses, they're on board. But you go to the, the work systems network and there's no authority to make anything happen.
You're talking about local board? I was gonna say, I don't think that's true.
Well,
We fully embraced it.
I think
You
some,
do.
I think some have, Kim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're making progress for sure. I mean,
That's something that we need to do. We can push on that lever.
That's what we
Well,
want you to
and
do.
here's the thing about the strategic plan, right? As we just talked about it. If that's something that we need to do as a state board,
Yes,
we can.
you, that,
Right, so
that.
there is.
You've been exposed to it a lot.
So that is actually in our wheelhouse.
Oh,
Travis, did you want to participate in this conversation?
From our strategic plan.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Charlie. Charlie, thank you for your earlier presentation too. You bring so much passion and love to the table when you talk about what you care about, and I appreciate that about you. That document is impressive, and I just wanted to amplify the idea that this group could be an advocate for CTE investment in Oregon. The state of Washington invests 10 times more money, literally 10 times more money in CTE than Oregon does. And that's an area where, Charlie and I believe the same stuff about how this should go between public schools and industry and the support that we provide for our students to enter career pathways and have those stackable pieces so they can get to where they need to go. I agree that alignment is critical, but also investment. So thank you for your work, Charlie. I really appreciate that. And kudos to you and Tom and the group on the success of the employability skills work, and that's taken root in our schools and in industry at the same time. That is the kind of synergy that you spoke about that I think is so critical. So thanks for your charisma and thanks for your leadership.
Let me add one thing to what Travis just said. I have met with my counterpart in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Do you realize they have 23 centers just like this in the state of Oklahoma, which is roughly population size the same as Oregon?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, we know from going to some of these national conferences that other states, specifically red states, are all in on this in a really intensive way, in a way that we are not, which speaks to the need for coordination, and it speaks to the need for innovation, which this board has done. And I really appreciate, Charlie, you laying out the committee history, so don't get lost. However this shakes out, that that the WTDB has in fact been a place for innovative thinking, which then kicks off other things. So I think this is just really great. And just to echo Travis, your passion and commitment to this work has just been amazing. We really appreciate it.
I would add, I've never seen two board volunteers that have worked so hard to advance something. Like I don't even know if they sleep at night, because when we get together in these WRC meetings and they talk about what's happened since the last one, I'm like, how are they doing this? Like, these guys work hard to do what you're hearing about right now. And I really.
He's retired though. It's got time for it.
But I'm taking my passion lessons from Tony. I told you before we vote, I told you I would ask something, and that is that every member of this board is a disciple of what we're talking about here, which means you need to get the materials in your hand, and you need to talk to your counterparts, and you need to talk to your employees, and you need to talk to those that you're associated even in social gatherings. I talk about this because I love what I'm doing with this and the response and so forth. Please gather any information that you need. We have a plethora of it available, and you can either reach me or Tom, or we'll connect you in with Sherry as well. But please be a disciple. Be as passionate as I am, and we'll make this thing get it over the line. It needs a home.
We made a presentation up in Belgium one day. Tony actually is a real disciple.
He is
Trent, when you say it needs a home, what do you mean by that?
We have right now, Sherry is.
Sherry C.
Sherry C.
Yeah,
Sherry
yeah.
C. Yeah, we got that really. Sherry is being supported to continue to do work on the K through 12, primarily K through 12 side, on intermittent grants that have come from ODE.
Okay.
So that's allowed us
To
to
keep her
develop.
employed.
Yeah, and that's also allowed us to develop the curriculum that was necessary to show business and industry that we're not coming to the table with a concept. This is hard and fact, and it's being implemented. And then, by the way, it's easy to train, very, very easy to train. So that's primarily what we're needing. And the other part is that there's now a sustainability element that's creeping up on this. What about training? What about the infrastructure? Sherry's put together amazing video content so students can see somebody using one of these skills, explaining what they are and so forth. And there's a management piece of all of that system.
Well, and the other thing is, I mean, I'm just channeling Jenny Newby here and all that great work that she did through Mountain View Community College and the other 8 community colleges that were part of the consortium on that DOL grant that they got. Do you know what I'm talking about? So we spent a lot of time trying to address alignment way back upstream between what was happening in K-12 on employability skills and what was or wasn't happening in community college and post-secondary. And so thanks to Mark Matsui for involving us in all this back. Shout out, Mark. It wasn't, we didn't get perfectly aligned. I mean, obviously, we did as much as we possibly could on the committee to create some alignment so that there was as much as possible seamless between the two for kids that wanted to move with OES credentials into post-secondary community colleges and potentially get credit for those and be able to slide into other badges at the community college level and sort of pick off where they left off. But like so many things, Kim, the money went away and so did all those efforts. And now it's just sitting
It's all
there.
about the sustainability.
It's just sitting
you know,
there.
right?
So
That's the
that's a home
Yeah.
to be married to.
Yeah.
All this work that
Interesting.
Charlie, Tom, and Sherry are doing.
And we did come in the back door. There's no question. There's no mandate. Even though these particular foundational skills are part of the programs of study, it's really Tom's work and so forth that said, no, these apply to everything. And we kind of took them out of those programs of study, but they still exist within there as a reference. But those are the things that we've done. And there's been crosswalks between our OES skills and other programs because we weren't trying to mandate necessarily OES specifically, although that's developed already, pull it off the shelf, it's free. But what we wanted to do is to make sure that there was an understanding that we've done everything we could to use the same language, the same context, and the same system from kids to adults, so that we don't have this void in between education and
When we talk about the home piece, this thing will die if it doesn't find a place to live because of the maintenance of the website and all those kinds of things. That's where we have to go.
I appreciate that, but we do need to move our agenda along, and I don't know if we still have a quorum. We do not.
Unfortunately,
So
no.
this will be voted on at the executive committee. So I wouldn't take
That's
it.
second.
Once you establish a quorum in one meeting, make that state.
No, we.
Oh, we've never done
Is
that.
that how?
We swear and we don't do that.
Right? That's why I'm right.
Well, here's what we could do. We could go ahead and vote on it, but then we'll shift it to what happens.
Might be different, so let's not.
Yeah, so
I was gonna say, we could go ahead and vote here, but then just to protect us, we'll take it to next month's exec and vote.
yeah,
The
that's
exec
it.
can,
We'll look it up. Yeah, we'll look it up.
I will look that up. That's a
Yeah.
good
because we've
question.
never-
Did that.
And this board has never done that.
My board member.
Yeah,
If you get them at least once during the meeting, you get quorum. That's
so we're gonna.
Okay, we're gonna check
We're
public
gonna,
meeting law.
yeah, we're gonna check that.
Please let me know.
Don't just Given the fact that we will take this to the exec committee, it's great to have
Okay,
a
all right.
temperature vote. This is a lot of work. We really appreciate it. All those in favor of approving the workforce readiness committee charter, aye, or raise your hand. Aye.
Do we need a
Can we
motion
start with
first?
a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Do we need a
Todd.
motion?
My brain, I'm so confused now about the forms and everything. So we are a motion. A motion. I was thinking about it as a ceremonial vote, actually, but we need a motion.
I move to approve the charter.
Okay, we need a second.
I'll second.
All right, now we will go on to, all those in favor. Aye. What about?
Aye.
Okay, we got some hands raised. Anyone opposed? I think the hand that came up later for the aye, but I just want to confirm. Anybody opposed? If you're not, bring your little yellow hand down. Anyone opposed? Okay. Anyone abstaining? All right, so based on that, pass conditionally, consider it may have to go to the executive committee. If cannot.
We will
Figure that out.
We're gonna pack.
The things you learn on Friday afternoon.
It's true. You see, because for 6 years I've been on this board, we've been freaked out every time people leave. Wowzers. Okay, we got it.
We're gonna get that straight, because that would make things a lot easier if that's true.
We have the forestry workforce steering committee.
Yeah, I was gonna, yeah, so for those who don't know who I am, I'm Harris Steinbach, I have the Forestry Workforce Committee along with, Polk County Commissioner Craig Polk. We're both board members. I think I've been on the board for 4 years now, I think it's been, so, I was thinking, Todd, so how long ago did we start the Forestry Workforce Committee stuff? Was it last year? Like,
Yeah, it's been a year ago.
23, okay,
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure.
About a year ago.
It's been about a
Craig
year.
said it was gonna take us every bit of a year.
Yeah,
And none of us believed him, but
Right,
yeah.
and it has, yeah. So, basically, we started this work, last year. And really, it was based on looking at the workforce of the forestry sector within the state of Oregon. And where the gaps are, what we can leverage, different relationships, partnerships, a lot of it is kind of what we're just used to hearing, where we can, increase efficiency, and whatnot. And so, the original contract was for, approximately 220,000. And it went to, Echo Northwest. So the study began with really a broad definition of the forestry workforce sector. And, there's a lot of really good people on that committee and a lot of, strong opinions, but also opinions of individuals who have been there, done that. They know that sector well. So it started with a broad definition of the forestry sector, which included forestry and wood product manufacturing. But then later, the Forestry Workforce Committee determined the need to kind of lessen the scope and kind of dial it in, because it started going down kind of a rabbit hole of maybe not being as related to what we were trying to get to. Because you think about the forestry workforce sector, it's like, well, do you start talking about the furniture that's made from it? Do you start talking about, so there was those kind of things that it started dragging into different areas. And so with that, we kind of lessened the scope to more accurately represent the sector. There was a $30,000 contract amendment to kind of cover any additional kind of survey needs that were recommended by the committee. And, while taking away some of those things from the initial study, it also added some things because, Echo had already done kind of work leading up to a certain point. So the committee really had to say, we appreciate the work you've done thus far, the drafts you've given us. I was gonna say, talk about killing trees. I did print that out. So here's the study thus far. It's just a draft. We're almost at the finish.
Wait, those from Grand Run Log.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, yeah, that's a tribal thing. But anyway, so we had to say, kind of hold up, we'd like to steer in a different direction. Echo has been great that way. So despite challenges and budgetary restrictions and whatnot, we are still looking at getting the study buttoned up by the 30th of this month, actually. Some of the things that we've incorporated, we are looking at other options regarding adding maybe like a sub-study, because we've kind of looked back at some of the areas that were taken out and noticed. I think it was the right decision to take those pieces out. However, we want to make sure we're fully encapsulating the forestry workforce sector. We are also viewing this, and that's what I love about this board, is we're viewing this as a living document as well. So it's like the last thing we wanted, and the committee itself is full of a lot of people that are straight shooters. And I love that because I'm one of those. And it's like, we don't want just another study that just sits and gets dust. And you go, oh yeah, remember when that, came out in 2025 and you take it off. We want it to be living. We want it to be something that individuals can access and go, this isn't just a reincarnation of past data. Because that's the other thing we're really focused on. We definitely didn't want just past data to come in and just compile it in a different, package. So it's been great, and it is kind of moving in a really good way. With that said, is Andrew or Melissa on?
Andrew.
I think Andrew.
Yeah, so with
Andrew's
that
on.
said, I
Yes.
think I'll pass it to Andrew. Great, I'll pass it to Andrew. And then Todd may want to follow him potentially, and then if there's any questions, if we have time, I'd be more than happy to take them.
Yeah, thank you, Harris. And I didn't prepare any slides here, so apologies. Todd had asked for a brief update on what we've done. But as Harris mentioned, the study the focus was changed a little bit, I'd say fairly considerably a few months ago. And, we scrambled around and made some adjustments to what we were doing. But I do think most importantly, the survey that Harris mentioned, I think will add a lot of value to the work we're doing. It was a survey of both employers working in the woods and the large number of so-called non-employers. You have a bunch of landowners, independent operators, self-employed machinery operators, truckers, and so on that are not reflected in the data. So we collected some information from them. And I think the findings from the survey have resonated well with the committee. We built that into our report. And I think that'll be a great addition to what we're doing. Beyond that, again, we did submit the draft report about a week ago. We're receiving feedback and expect to have that done this week. We'll meet with the committee again next week to discuss, and then we'll finalize the report and submit that to the committee for their final meeting before the end of the month. And happy to take additional questions on, the change of focus or anything else.
Thanks, Andrew. So we are meeting next week on the 17th, kind of to just loop back around. And then our final meeting, as Andrew mentioned, will be on the 27th, so the Friday after next. So
If I could just jump in and add a little bit. In terms of the sort of additional work that Harris was talking about, a big part of that is really being advocated from private sector and business, and it has a lot to do with Southern Oregon Workforce Board and one of their key manufacturing representatives on their sector workforce partnership, John Whiteley. He's working closely with wood products industry down there, particularly Roseburg Forest Products, who, as some of you may have read, is investing $700 to $750 million in a couple of new plants to produce MDF board, medium density fiber board. So there's that. And then in addition to that, a number of mills in Coos Curry and Douglas County are retooling once again log mills to be able to process even smaller logs. And as a result of both of those developments, there's a need, right, for more highly trained, technically focused and skilled workforce. So they're working in partnership with Umpqua Community College, develop a mechatronics program and other training and education to train incumbent workers and student workers and other adult workers to be able to supply the talent that those mills need. There's an anticipation from a lot of the larger and smaller wood products entities, manufacturing entities down there to be able to use that report to leverage work amongst them and make sure that they have a good take on, the age-old thing around workforce development, supply and demand, right? So I just thought that was important to sort of note as to the reason why we're sort of coming full circle. We've run out of time on this one, but fortunately we were able to work with some folks, the Future Ready, to find a little bit more funding, next biennium funding, because there's no more on this contract. It's this biennium. So we're excited to be able to help with that. And I just heard from John Whiteley right before the meeting started that he's going to be sending an email from a number of leaders in manufacturing facilities, in wood products in that Tri-County area, advocating for, show commitment and support for that. So awesome. Thought you wanted to know that.
That's awesome.
Hey, disciple, tell them about OAS, will you?
you know, Oregon is leading the way on a restoration of looking at timber, right?
Sure.
I mean, our airport is our largest showcase of
what it's
that.
called.
And-
Fast timber.
Yeah, and that is something that we will be well positioned to lead in, both in workforce and product. So that's really, really great. Thank you so much. Any additional questions for Harris? Okay, Chris Latimer and Continuous Improvement Committee.
All right. Well, yeah, Chris Latimer, co-chair of the Continuous Improvement Committee, along with Kaylin Lane of Ford Family Foundation, and Kaylin wasn't able to join us today. Honestly, I didn't kill any trees. It's kind of downtime for the Continuous Improvement Committee. The Continuous Improvement Committee's work is really centered around steering through the WorkSource Biennial Assessment Project, which we presented that to you all in December, and sent it off to the governor in December. And so we have not been meeting because we agreed we aren't going to meet unless we have a real reason to meet. However, we have, Kaylin and I have been meeting with Todd and with Heather Ficht, who is the executive director at Cascades East. East Cascades, that's what they call it now. Not these kids out there, these new names. We have been meeting.
What? Let's talk.
So we have been meeting and talking about, how do we keep an agenda moving forward, conversations moving forward about best practices in the workforce development system. And so one of the efforts that we are working on, and I have to say, it's really Todd is working on it. Kaylin and I get updates on it periodically, or get to listen in on a Teams meeting. And you should all get your phones out now and mark your calendars for a workforce development summit event that we're planning. It's targeted for July 31st. That date isn't 100% firm yet.
We just got confirmation. Julia was in a meeting with Rep. Fan and myself yesterday, and Rep. Sam committed to 7/31. So 100%.
July 31. Yes, we're working with Representative Pham to plan this event. It'll be in Salem. It'll be a most of the day convening to bring together workforce board directors, the WTDB members, local workforce board members, some state and federal legislators, and have a conversation about what's going on out there, better understand current issues, priorities, and opportunities. So you should all be looking for more information about that, since now we have a confirmed date.
Yeah.
I'm super excited.
Yeah, that's great.
Salem Convention Center, I think is what we're talking about, but.
Yeah, I don't think we have the budget to be able to do that. We don't, but
I like the way you.
yeah.
I know.
I was like, let's be real.
I don't think-
We just got a bunch of money.
What are you gonna have?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I will be absent, so I can't.
well, I received folks already. Kidding you.
Otherwise we wouldn't do it.
I don't know, nine local boards, all those members would be invited. This board, so 35 right there. And then depending on how many state legislators that Rep. Fan gets to come, and then a handful, 2 or 3, I would guess, of better, so I don't know.
If you can have all the workforce first, can I have like an hour of that time?
Get up there and give a sermon. So,
I'm just saying, there's places to hold this meeting.
well, that's where I was just gonna go. So the two venues that have been tossed out there thus far, I mean, this is gonna have to go really fast to get to July 31st,
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
So we talked about, Julia and I talked with them yesterday, Pham and his staff, about like a 9 to 1. A little bit of networking coffee before, open welcome with Rep. Pham and Sherry, and then a couple of panels maybe, and then a discussion, because Kaylin Lane was the one who sort of conceived of this whole idea to begin with, given her role as a champion for Family Foundation in rural Oregon. It's like, Todd, how do we get to the legislature to have conversations. How do we,
I love the concept.
yeah, and so, yeah, and so,
Stuff like this all the time.
Why not have it right here? Put that huge center space in there.
Oh, I was just gonna say, do it here.
Do it here.
Get all these people
I'm
here.
Salem Kaiser, you may be able to cut a deal with Salem Kaiser.
will the kids be, no, kids will
No,
be back.
not July 31st.
Okay, that's a good
This
idea.
building would be empty.
Okay, we'll add that to the list, but the other two that are on that list already are the Employment Department Auditorium.
Mm.
And not that one now.
Same reaction.
And the other one that came up was, what was it, Julia? Oh, Salem City Public Library. There's an auditorium there apparently. I've never been. What do you want? No, so you good.
I'm just imagining it though.
You're only talking 50 people.
Oh,
Throw the Trump Center in.
Yeah, we've been there. OIT in Wilsonville?
Oh,
It's nice. It's a
you can
nice.
spin out here, you can spin off to different.
Here, or give it at the training center, and I'll come home a day early.
Oh, that Knife River.
You'll get more people. And like,
Fine, I like it here because I can set up a booth.
Oh, yeah, you need a date.
Okay, so more to come on that. One little add to that. No, Howard has a question.
I just had a question. Would having that event at Oregon State University in Corvallis help in any way?
I couldn't go.
ooh.
Would that help get more people there?
It's block 15.
You think? I think there's energy to have it in Salem, but
You want central, that's my only, I mean, I like Corvallis, but it's harder to get to because it's off by 5.
yeah. And there was originally, just so you know, energy to have it at the Capitol. But then with all the construction that's still going on, they're like, nah, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So Knife River, CTEC, OAT.
What's the building that we've met at for the consortium a couple of times? Right off from the downtown Salem Shopping Center District.
Yeah, that's CCBI, that's where my house.
Oh, that's where it
I
came.
was staying, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we could go see CBS.
It's just a great room,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not too big and 50 people would
Mhm.
feel good in there.
Okay, that's a great idea.
Oh, do you?
All right.
Okay, so more to come on that.
Yes.
Mark your calendars. Thank you.
Additional location ideas, do send them to Todd.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So, I'm not convinced we can have a quorum without people, but we're gonna keep working. I'm gonna keep
There it is, Ted.
checking that. Yeah, I'm gonna keep checking on that. But that being
It's turning
said,
in very-
yeah, it's really triggered me now, but, I would like for us to look at the last page here. If you have it, we're gonna just talk a bit about, the membership, board size. So I had Todd put together kind of a back of the envelope, situation. So I should back up. There have been conversations about the fact that this board is a bit larger than other boards and wanting to bring the number down. However, Venkat asked AI and AI and I came up with a similar number. Part of the thing is you see it, there you go, there's Venkat's perplexity and Venkat can talk about why it came up with that. But part of the reason, the pressure on the number is you see what we're talking about, which is quorum, right? So my concern is the more we slide with numbers, the harder quorum gets, the harder participation gets. But there does seem to be a sweet spot. I don't know, Venkat, if you want to talk about what the query, what perplexity told you.
Yeah, I just asked it, here's the charter of the board and what's the optimal size for a high performing board and why? So this was a response and said, what's the downside of having more members? And so it says larger boards greater than 50 risk and efficiency, while smaller boards less than 25 may lack critical perspectives. And so it said 25 to 30 is an optimal number.
So 30 was the number I was thinking, and right now we are at, is it 38 or 33? I'm confused.
Can you pull that slide up?
Yeah, I'm confused about this next slide.
Or play. Make it go either.
I like the way you tried to though.
Yes, you know.
Magic and it'll move.
You tried to will it to go.
Hang on, we got it on a slide.
Pixie dust.
It's on the last page.
It's also on the last page, but it's on the slide. I guess the question.
Yeah, so current members are 31. Those are full-time voting or formal members, voting members.
Mhm.
We do have requirements from DOL, just as the local boards do, in terms of labor representation, in terms of workforce, system representation, and business. We are good with that number and the mix of members right now on both labor and workforce, greater than 20 on the workforce. We are 2 down on business. The reason we're down 2 on business is because this has been an ongoing conversation, and yours truly did not want to go out and recruit any more business people until we made a decision here, because the business is always the trickiest. They're hard to get and they're hard to keep. And thank you so much, Charlie Hopewell, for coming back after the last time you left and sticking around and becoming the EES preacher. Can you
So,
say that?
so just
Anyway.
adjusted total needed for compliance is 33. So
Yes.
we're at 31, so we technically need 2 more.
Yes.
Okay.
It's 33, but we have 5 ex officios, right? Those are non-voting. So if you add those into total membership, although we don't have to count those officios in part of the DOL calculate, we owe a calculation for compliance. But if you add those back in with the 2 additional members, we're at 38 right now.
Okay. And we have business members terming out in 2025 for.
Can they renew or they're done?
Yes, that was part of my recommendations. Please, if you term out in, I don't know if anybody's left on here that will be terming out, maybe, no. If you're from business, please re-up. Again, it's hard to get business people and to keep them. So yeah, we should ask them all to re-up, as I typically do.
And then we have all others terming out 1 in 2025. Right?
Yes.
Okay. My recommendation is that we set a goal for the board of 30, but that we move to implement that through natural attrition. That we basically, as people term out, except for the business people, we look at if we're going to replace, and we could, look at the ex officio if it's somehow more of a burden on staff to manage the extra 5. We could look at maybe bringing that down to 2 or something. We can look at that. But I would say that we could vote to, maybe look at 2027 of getting to 30 members, but not that the vote of 30 members would be like, I'm going to call you up tomorrow and be like, get out. Because we need 30 like that. I don't want to do it like that, but we could set that by, let's say 2027, 2028, we'll be at 30. I think that would be more reasonable and more practical. And that would give us something that we could vote on. And obviously we don't have a quorum already. So
And it's always playing the percentages
That's
too,
right.
right? So it's like you might get, but then you don't want to have an open seat for 7.
I know. I know.
So I think that's a good.
Yeah.
That's a good.
So,
point.
what's the definition of the workforce versus business?
I could pull it up.
What I'm just trying to figure out is there an overlap there?
People who do double duty.
Yeah.
There is double duty. Yeah.
I say this with great confidence, but Chris just pulled up the public meeting law. Maybe something changed.
Yeah, we were on something.
Yeah,
Everything that happened in talk way back in the day didn't really happen.
I was Googling.
911.
It's like, I know.
I'm a big fan of.
Change somewhere.
No.
There's nothing to see here.
Could you strike that? Oh, no, we can't.
Okay, I wrote next to it, we don't have a quorum for this one, so don't worry.
Okay.
So what is the quorum for this board established at? Is it 50%? You do have the ability to set another number as long as it's more than 1/3.
Yeah, that's true.
And is ex officio included in the quorum calculation?
Because they're non-voting.
Yeah.
We do have requirements for the number of business folks that are here to get quorum, and the other is simple majority. But both those things have to be in play to have quorum.
Okay, so
But-
It can be less than simple majority.
Not for business, though.
The bylaws, right? Not the.
So I can read you the section of
We're
bylaws.
gonna get reading time. We're gonna get reading of the bylaws.
To transact business at a WTDB meeting, a quorum of members must participate. A quorum requires the participation of at least 50% of the business representatives and the participation of at least a majority of all the WTDB members, including the business representatives. So it would be 50%
Yes.
plus one.
That said, committee,
That's
we
our
do,
bylaw.
yes.
Those can be changed.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
so, sorry to keep going, I'm trying to get my head wrapped around this. And there's a percent makeup requirement of the board itself.
It's in the federal.
No, so what's the percent makeup requirement? I'm trying to slice all the.
It's on here.
I've got a 20. Is that the number or is that the percent?
That is the number on labor that are required by the law. That is the percentage that is called out in the law on workforce. It has to be greater than 20%. And the definition of work, so I can read it if you'd like me to, but just at a high level,
And is the business one the number or is that
the business number, the business people is the number.
is the number? So that's a simple question.
But,
The act is 50% plus one.
yes.
No, we're talking about voting versus she was asking a separate question, which is.
She's asking.
She's asking.
I'm asking makeup.
Right,
So
because
we
we
moved
make-
past vote to the quorum piece. I'm now on the, what's the makeup requirement
exactly.
off the.
And that's 3 from labor, 7 from workforce, or. 20.
Given the current membership,
Yeah,
or greater than 20%.
greater than
from
20%,
workforce.
and then 15 business.
And it's 50.
But that's 15
15 business.
percentage wise
No, I
is the
think-
way the law is.
Okay, but okay, so just to be clear,
Yeah,
just to be
50
clear,
that's
this number
mandatory.
15 is not by statute. It's just the number you have.
Are you sure
Okay.
you want to go into politics?
I just wanted to clarify.
That's what I was certainly.
That's right.
I should have wrote, I thought I wrote, I had majority in there and I forgot to. include it.
Okay, so.
Different than.
So the federal requirement is that we have no less than 20, correct me if I'm wrong, no less than 20% of the board represents workforce.
Yes,
And then labor is no less than 10% of the board. How did we get to 3? Is it a 10% requirement?
it is not a percentage requirement, the number.
It's the number. See, that's the problem. It jumps back and forth.
Okay, so
That's
you
what-
will have 3, you will have no fewer than 20%, and then businesses, you'll have no fewer than 50%?
It has to
Plus
be
one.
majority, so
50%.
over 50%.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's the thing. The numbers are
Okay.
jumping back and forth.
So the only fixed number is labor makes up 3.
Well, and per our earlier discussion, it does sound as though what we need to do is just kind of go, let's go for that number.
Yes.
Draft out then
Yeah.
Work backwards.
percentages
Yeah,
back
that's what
into.
we're gonna do.
Yeah,
Can you remind me what the term out number is? Is it 2,
Sure.
3 years? What is it, 3 terms?
oh, sorry, one term is 3 years.
Right, yeah, but how many of those, and so
Do
you
you-
quote unquote term out? I can't remember.
I think it is 3,
3.
yeah. But there's an exception in the, can you look at the bylaws, Aaliyah, real quick? I think there is an exception, like if the governor so chooses, she can reappoint you, for numerous terms, but I think it's not supposed to be more than 3
More than 3 years.
terms. Yes,
Yeah, 3
so 9 years.
Sounds like a long time.
It is.
And I think the other thing that we have done over the years is if somebody really wants to stay on, we can get an exception as a board member. Not necessarily chair or vice chair, but as a board member to get reappointed for a third year.
Just telling you, Todd, I'm not attending a meeting with a walker.
Come on.
Sure.
I'll drive you.
I most likely.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Zoom calls.
That's true. Let me-
So it sounds like we're in agreement
Yeah.
that 30 and work backwards
I think
is
it's a good
good.
plan.
So that's what we'll bring to the executive committee because we gotta have to have a quorum to vote on it. So those are the 2 things that will be taken over by the executive committee. That would be the approve the workforce readiness committee charter and the board membership. Is there anything else that anybody wanted to bring up or discuss or update on or something exciting you have going on?
I did want to add this real quick. I didn't have time while Rhonda was in here. but I was talking with Todd, and I mean, I was really appreciative of hosting it here, particularly because my relationship with the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde and this program is going to 100%. There'll be a collaborative relationship that comes from this without a doubt. Yeah, so Todd was like, share that, Harris, and that's what it's all about.
That's right.
We're talking about Tony and some other folks, how they met, and on the back of a napkin came up with that committee, and so it's all about that networking and piece, and when you get this many different folks from these different sectors come together. So I'm really looking forward to connecting with Ron. It's gonna be great.
So I'd like to share, reading from the charter, appointment in terms of office. All members of the board except the legislative members are appointed by the governor. B, ex officio members are permitted at the direction of the chair of the board and subject to final approval and appointment by the governor. C, members of the WTDB shall represent diverse geographic areas of the state. D, no person shall serve as a representative for more than one category of membership. Article 2, Section 1. E, the terms of office for members of the board, including the chair and the vice chair, as then corrected, serve at the pleasure of the governor. The members shall serve a term of 3 years. There shall be no limit to the number of terms a board member may serve. So you might be here with Walker.
Wow.
Beyond those set by the sitting governor.
Wow.
If a board member resigns or is incapacitated,
There you go.
there's your Walker.
There's your out. There's your out.
The governor shall appoint a person to fill out the remainder of the term.
Here anymore.
Well, when people say.
Here ends the reading of that section of the bylaw.
Wow.
It's the reason.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Three.
So glad I did.
It's in your,
Bylaws.
Mhm. Mhm. We got a lot of information today.
We sure did. Good meeting.
Right? I mean, what is the process to adjust the bylaws?
As long as they are in conflict with the regs.
Right. yeah.
So maybe you need a committee to look at bylaws.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because we ran into.
Another committee. Completed, not in, yeah, no, you called it. You're our new chair. Congrats.
Don't give it anything to think about.
Oh,
Yeah, don't do that. I
we
did
don't
that
need more paper.
This conversation is just.
Yeah, I did that with my condo board and then I ended up on the bylaws.
I did that with the homeowners with-
Howard, let's go watch those neighbors win it.
The meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you all for all your participation.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Good meeting.
On the call.